Hi, I'm Susan Ashbrook. You're watching Equine VIP. We're at Return to Freedom Ranch. We're going to be meeting its founder, Neda DeMayo, and learn more about America's wild horses. I read on your website that at 5 years old, you had a very vivid memory about Mustangs.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I was very young, I happened to see wild horses being chased by helicopters on TV. I'm not sure if it was a documentary or a movie or what it was, but it traumatized me because I was a little girl that, loved horses from the minute I was born, probably.
Right, like
And
most of us.
yeah, it was my first word, my mom said. So when I saw that, obviously, I was pretty upset. And so I always tell the kids that come here that Return to Freedom was created by a 6-year-old.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. I mean, this is an amazing ranch. Was it overwhelming to start this, the Return to Freedom, the whole idea of it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I had one foot in front of the other, and I was very lucky I looked for a few years on how I could start this. And luckily, the family, my parents were getting older and they were in the East Coast, and my sister was in Los Angeles. And we just rallied and decided, let's do something together. And we bought the ranch together to at least launch the Return to Freedom Wild Horse Sanctuary. And it was created as a model, so that, because I knew on 300 acres, what could we really do? You can't save them all. So we tried to create a model and take a different approach. And what we did was we pioneer minimally intrusive management alternatives. And so, for example, we started using immunocontraception on the mares, and we have been able to manage natural herds by using the contraception. And the reason was that we wanted people to be able to learn directly from the herds in nature's classroom. And if they could observe natural herd behavior, stallions raising their young, and the matriarchs, creating or shaping the character of those foals from the day they're born, and all the etiquette and education that goes in. These horses, this species is millions and millions of years old, and their domestication is only maybe 6,000 years old. So far deeper is their culture.
I thought Mustangs were Mustangs, but what I learned from you is that there are different bands of Mustangs, and you have some pretty rare ones here.
True. We like to sort of look at this model, this facility, as a living museum, a living history museum in a way, because people can go on a tour and be introduced to the horses that arrived with Hernando de Soto in the 1500s, the Choctaw herd. They're 100% pure tribal strain Choctaw, and that's part of a genetic rescue effort. It's a collaborative venture with people like John Fusco, who I started this with. He's the author of the movie Spirit and Hidalgo, and he's a colonial Spanish Mustang conservator. And him and Dr. Sponenberg and Bryant Rickman are people that have really sacrificed a lot to preserve these horses. And we got involved in 2005, and then he sent his herd here in 2008. And they hold a lot of information and education. They're historically rich. So when the children come, they learn a lot about the Trail of Tears and other things that these horses represent. These horses carried the Choctaw families on the Trails of Tears. And then we have the Wilbur Cruz herd. Isadora Cruz, one of our mares, was the 2010 Breyer horse Mustang model. So it was really cute. She's really she's a lovely representation. Those are horses that go back to Padre Quino's horses that came over from Spain in the 1600s, and so we call them our colonial Spanish mission horses. And we have the Sulphur Springs herd. They go back to They're of all the horses in the United States found in the wild, they have the most similar genetic or DNA structure as the primitive Iberian Soraya horses, and they're very unique. They come out of Utah, and they're probably one of my favorite herds. To me they feel like a real wild horse. They feel like, okay, these horses came over wild.
Let's talk about Spirit.
Spirit is still here, and he's a stallion, and they're found in Oregon. And there's not very many of them. It's not a large herd management area, and there's been dilution over the years of them introducing, I think, other lines. But Spirit is a wonderful representation of a done Kiger Mustang stallion, and he was the muse for DreamWorks feature. The animated feature film.
All I know is that my husband's grandkids came here on one of your educational tours and met Spirit, and he's like a rock star to them. They were so excited.
It's been great because he really appeals to the kids and adults, but it was a real gift because people have come from all over to see him and for their children to see him, and it gives us an opportunity to talk about America's wild horses to the youth.
Now, you just mentioned talking about America's wild horses. I know that, besides all of this, you also spend time in Washington and speak to them nationally about America's wild horses.
Return to Freedom founded the American Wild Horse Preservation Campaign in 2004 after a few of us went out into the desert on our public lands into some of the herd management areas. And what we saw there was worthy of further investigation. Because we don't have deep pockets, we couldn't do those investigations, but what we did do was come back and immediately launch the American Wild Horse Preservation Campaign, which thanks to Viggo Mortensen, it got up on Percival Press right away. And so it started to gain momentum. The campaign is now a coalition supported by over 40 groups nationwide that represent collectively over 9 million people. And it's wonderful. The Humane Society of the United States is involved, ASPCA, American Welfare Institute. If people go to the website wildhorsepreservation.org, they can get involved. We try to keep the most current information and well-researched information up there.
You talked about how important it was for you to have these days where people from the public and children in particular come to learn about Mustangs. And you said to me, well, they're our future. And I was so impressed by that. I still got goosebumps when I said that. And today is one of those days, and I just want a quick comment on that.
Yeah, thanks. Obviously, the only way to make lasting change is for us to become more aware and to change ourselves as individuals. And I think one of the most powerful things is a visceral experience, and to give people direct contact, direct encounter with the natural world that we take for granted, and some of us aren't even in touch with it. So because of that, so many species are suffering today. One of them, of course, the wild horses. So I'm committed to it.
One last thing, I wanted to ask you to tell us your website, and you have a store too, and I'm going to be buying gifts on your store because it's so great.
Thank you. Well, our gift shop is just really small. We have donor gifts in there and things like that. Just a humble little ranch, but everything goes to the horses, and we have a small but mighty staff, and we have a great team. We use our management platform as a foundation for education, which brings us into so many different facets of understanding what these horses are and the histories that they represent and the cultures they've helped to create, and create an appreciation for them.
So website?
returntofreedom.org, www.returntofreedom.org, and we do have some horses available for foster homes. We have a strict adoption policy, but if someone qualifies, we do have some horses that are available. So.
Thank you so much.